Okay, in this video we're going to show you how to solve a Boyle's Law problem. So the first thing that you need to do is don't panic, okay? Just read the problem slowly, and I want you to either circle or underline the numbers and the units that are mentioned in the problem. Now this is going to follow to the next step, which is decoding the problem, okay? So try to figure out from the problem what were the conditions initially, that is, what were the before conditions, and then figure out what were the conditions after some kind of change occurred. And then label as P1 and V1 for the initial conditions and P2 and V2 for the final conditions. Now, remember, one of these is going to be missing, okay? You're going to solve for the one that is missing. So write the equation for Boyle's Law and then substitute the known values that you figured out from the problem and then solve for the unknown value that's missing. Alright, now I'm going to show you the video and show you how it's done, and then this will all make a lot more sense. Alright, see you in a few. Okay, it's time to show you a Boyle's Law problem now. First things first, you actually have to know what Boyle's Law is, okay? So Boyle's Law states that some initial set of conditions with pressure and volume must be equal to the final conditions of pressure and volume. Okay, so you can kind of play with these a little bit, but when you multiply pressure times volume, either in the initial case or at the end after some change has occurred, these two sides must be equal. So that's Boyle's Law. Now let's take a look at a Boyle's Law problem and decode it a little bit. It says a sample of a gas at 1 atmosphere has a volume of 2 liters. When the volume is increased to 4 liters at constant temperature, the new pressure is ... Okay, so we are trying to figure out this new pressure. Now the new pressure would be this one right here. Okay, so the new pressure would be P2. The old pressure is P1. So let's look and see what information we can gather from the problem. First, it says that a sample of gas is at 1 atmosphere. All right, well, since it's our starting conditions and we're dealing with atmospheres, that's a unit of pressure. Over here, the volume is 2 liters. So that's V1. So between these two things, we know what the starting conditions are. Now, the volume is increased to 4 liters. So this 4.0 liters represents the V2. Okay? So this is something that I would recommend that you do with every problem that you solve. This is called decoding, and it's important to label each of the numbers so that way you know how to substitute them into the formula. All right, another good thing to do, even though I've written the equation up here, it's a great idea to practice writing Boyle's Law, because depending on your teacher, they may or may not give you the formula. So it's good practice that way. Okay, let's see what color we should pick here. What do you think? Should we pick the black? Should we pick the blue? Pick the green? All right, let's go with the green for this time. Okay, so let's write in P1 we know is 1.0 atmospheres. And we know our volume initially is 2.0. See how easy this is? Now that we know what the values of P1 and V1 are, we can just take them directly from the problem. And we are looking for P2. We don't know what that is yet, but we'll figure that out. And we've got 4.0 liters. Alrighty then. So this is the setup for solving for P2. So like a good algebra student, we're going to get the variable by itself, so we're going to divide by 4.0 liters on both sides, of course. Now notice how nicely everything is worked out, okay? This goes away, and notice how the liters are going to cancel as well. You see, so we don't have any more liters. The only thing that's left is pressure in atmospheres. So P2 is going to be equal to 1 times 2 divided by 4. Okay? Now, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. If you can do this in your head, bravo. Okay? But you can also work it out on a calculator. especially if you're doing a chemistry test. A lot of people get nervous. It's perfectly okay. So if you need to use that calculator, even for something like this, be my guest. Okay? No judgment here. Okay, so that is how you find the answer. And that's it. I wish I could tell you that there was more, but that's it. Okay, you just got done watching a Boyle's Law problem. So make sure that you follow the steps that I showed you in the beginning. Okay, first is you need to read the problem and circle or underline the numbers and the units that are given in the problem itself. Okay, now once you have that done, then you're going to label each of them and identify which were the conditions initially, right, at the beginning, and then what are the conditions at the end of the experiment. So then you can label P1 and V1 and P2 and V2. Now recognize that if you have one missing, that's normal because you're going to solve for the one thing that is missing. So be on the lookout for language like what volume or what is the pressure, because that's the one that's missing. Okay, so then to figure out the problem, you're going to write the equation, right? P1 times V1 equals P2 times V2. Solve by plugging in the known values and then find the unknown value, the one that's missing. Okay, and make sure that you practice writing the equation every time, because that will cut down on your memorization. You won't have to memorize as much if you keep writing down the equation before you begin substituting in the values. All right, that's all I have for now. Do some practice problems and even download the worksheet and see if you can follow through on the steps that I did in this video.